This is what you should do if you have a hot race coming up. GTN's heat prep plan for running and triathlon. We've waded through the science so you don't have to, and we've put together, with the help of some experts, a heat training protocol that is foolproof and guaranteed to get you ready for your next race in the heat. Disclaimer, this plan is neither foolproof nor guaranteed. Individual results may vary. Speak to your doctor before you start any heat training plan. Okay, you can adapt to the heat, and it actually doesn't take that much to make big gains in how your body tolerates the heat and how you feel in the heat. For as little as 4 to 6 weeks, you can see big gains, and we'll give a full 4 to 6 week protocol at the end of this video. But first, let's explain the science around what's happening in the heat. When exposed to heat, your body immediately circulates more blood to the surface of the skin to dissipate this heat. As a result, your body increases the blood plasma volume, adding more water to the blood, increasing the amount of blood. You essentially have more blood available to the working muscles to maintain this effort. The changes can be striking. For example, a 2015 study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology found a 17.8% increase in blood plasma volumes after just 4 exposures to a sauna immediately after training for 30 minutes at 85 degrees Celsius or 185 degrees Fahrenheit. Other studies have shown a less significant jump, but all have shown significant adaptation when exposed to the heat. In addition to this adaptation, your body does a few other things. Your body becomes more efficient at sweating, starting sweating earlier and at a lower core temperature. It also decreases the concentration of electrolytes in your sweat, losing less electrolytes in the sweat, and the size and function of your sweat glands can change. Vascular function also improves, allowing better flow of that increased plasma volume to the surface of your skin, and your metabolic rate decreases with thermal tolerance at the cellular level and also at the psychological level. You literally won't feel as hot in the heat. Many of these adaptations start immediately and progress over a few weeks to months of heat exposure. And there's one more adaptation that just might be the best one of the lot. Remember how I said that your blood plasma volume increases with heat adaptation? Well, that means that your increased blood plasma volume means the amount of red blood cells in it decreases, essentially decreasing your hematocrit. This spurs your kidneys to start releasing natural EPO to increase the number of red blood cells that are produced. You will bring your hematocrit back up to baseline, but your overall hemoglobin mass in your body will actually increase. A 2020 study in experimental physiology exposed subjects to 5 weekly 1-hour sessions in 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and they found that it takes 3 to 6 weeks to significantly increase your hemoglobin mass. And this could lead to improved performance not just in the heat, but in all conditions. So heat training may not only make you better at racing in the heat, it may make you better at racing, period. So how do you do it? And do you need a high-tech sports lab to do proper heat acclimatization training? Well, we sat down with Lindsay Hunt, Senior Sports Scientist at the new Precision Fuel and Hydration Sports Lab. And he helped us come up with a 4 to 6 week protocol that you can use at home to do your own heat training. So where do our viewers have to start if they want to do heat acclimation? Do they have to build a sauna in their backyard?
No, actually they can just start with hot baths or saunas after exercise. The key there is for passive acclimation, so at rest, is doing them after exercise.
And then they should progress to actually doing it in exercise, I assume.
That's correct.
What about fans? Is training in a cool garage without the fan on essentially the same as heat training? I mean, it certainly gets you sweating.
It won't be as beneficial as training in a hot room. It'll get you sweating and get you hot, but it probably won't get you as far as you need to go. So using fans that are off initially and then bringing the fans on later for more comfort will be more beneficial.
Is heat adaptation like fitness? Use it or lose it, or can, once adapted to heat, keep it forever?
You definitely not keep it forever. Generally, the decay we see is around 2–2.5% per day of no heat exposure. And so at a minimum, 1 heat session a week will slow the decay of adaptations at a slower rate, so 0.5%, 1% per day on average. And then as you move to 2 sessions per week, you should be able to maintain any adaptations you have. And then 3 or more heat sessions per week should help to improve your adaptations over the long term.
So we're going to run through a full 6-week protocol if you've got plenty of time for your next race. But what if you just check the weather forecast for your race in, say, 10 days' time and realized it's going to be hot and you haven't done any heat adaptation? Is it too late, or can you do something?
10 days is almost too late, but you could certainly get in 2 or 3 days of saunas or hot sessions outdoors, and that would be fine.
Bearing in mind, though, that heat adaptation is hard on the body and you don't want to arrive at the race smashed.
Definitely, and that's why we keep the heat sessions generally quite short, so under 60 minutes if they're active, and then 40 minutes or less if it's a passive heat exposure post-exercise.
Okay, let's run through our 6-week protocol for heat adaptation. Before we start with the protocol, some tips to bear in mind. You want the temperature to be a minimum of 32 degrees Celsius, preferably a little bit warmer than that, or you should put some additional clothing on. But don't crank it up to 50 degrees Celsius. Preferably use a fan in a warm room rather than no fan or a slower fan in a cool room. If you are in a cooler room, use the fan at a lower speed or add some additional clothing to stimulate that heat adaptation. Rehydrate during and for 24 to 36 hours after each heat exposure. Drinking isn't cheating when it comes to heat acclimation. If you have started late, start at the beginning of the heat protocol plan. Don't start in the middle, and always do week 6 of the protocol before your event.
So for week 1, start by building up to 4 consecutive sessions of 30 minutes in a hot water bath or a sauna. If you're new to saunas or hot water baths, step out after 15 minutes just for a minute to cool off and then head back in. So for week 2, you're building up to 4 inactive exposures in a hot water bath or sauna again for 30 minutes after exercise. And you can bring in 1 active heat exposure, 45 minutes in a hot room or with clothing. So for week 3, we're reducing the inactive heat exposures down to 3 for 30 minutes after exercise. And then you can bring up the active heat exposures at 2 times 45 minutes in a hot room or with clothing. So for week 4, we'll do 3 inactive exposures for 30 minutes after exercise, and then move to 2 times 60 minutes active exposure. For week 5, we'll go for 2 inactive exposures for 30 minutes post-exercise again, and then bring in 3 active exercise exposures for 60 minutes each. So for week 6, we'll do 2 inactive exposures for 20 minutes, so we'll reduce that duration there, and then we'll bring in 1 active exposure that's just for 60 minutes, but we'll bring in some intensity there to replicate race pace. And one final thing, there's no exposure to the heat in the 3 to 4 days before the event.
And there you have it. Now you can hack your body and never fear the heat again, or even perform better when it isn't hot. We should charge for this kind of information. Let us know if you've ever tried heat training before, or if you plan to for your next hot race. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit that like button if this video has helped you, and subscribe to GTN so you don't miss the rest of our training videos.